I sat on the porch that evening, my hands wrapped around a chipped mug of tea, staring at the cracked driveway. The same driveway where Daniel used to play with his toy trucks. I heard a car stop, tires crunching over gravel, and my heart skipped. When Daniel stepped out, I almost didn't recognize him. His shoulders were broader, his hair neatly combed, his voice smoother. "Mom," he said, smiling faintly. "You look the same." I laughed softly. "That's not a compliment, sweetheart. It's been 10 years. Then I saw her. Emily. Perfect hair, perfect smile, and eyes that scanned the porch like a property agent. "You must be Emily," I said, standing. She leaned in, hugged me briefly, and said, "Oh, you're so tiny. I imagined you taller from Daniel's stories." Her perfume filled the air, strong and cold. "Well, come in," I said, trying to sound cheerful. "Dinner's ready." Inside, she looked around the living room, my living room, with its worn-out sofa and family photos. "This is cozy," she said, her tone balanced between polite and judgmental. Daniel rubbed the back of his neck. "Mom's always kept the place tidy." Emily smiled. "It's traditional." At dinner, I placed the roast chicken on the table, something Daniel always loved. "Oh, Mom, you remembered," he said. "How could I forget? You used to fight your father for the drumstick." Emily watched us with that tight smile again. "Daniel told me you cooked everything from scratch." "Impressive. I usually just order out." "That's all right," I said. "Cooking's how I keep myself company." She tilted her head. "That must get lonely." Daniel coughed. "Emily, Mom likes her quiet." I smiled. "It's okay, dear. I've had years to get used to quiet." We ate mostly in silence after that. The clock ticked louder than usual. Halfway through, Emily placed her fork down. "So," she began, "we were thinking about how to arrange things here. Daniel's office will need space and I'd like a guest room. We thought maybe." She paused, pretending to search for the right words. "Maybe what?" I asked softly. "Maybe the basement could work for you," she said. "It's big enough and private. That way we all have our own space." I froze, staring at her. The knife in my hand slipped and hit the plate with a sharp clang. "The basement," I repeated. She smiled like it was nothing. "It's just temporary until we settle. You'll have privacy down there." Daniel looked at me, then at her. "Emily, maybe we should." No, I interrupted, forcing a laugh. "That's fine. The basement will do." Daniel frowned. "Mom, are you sure?" "Of course. I've spent years alone. One more floor down won't kill me." Emily exhaled, relieved. "Wonderful. I'll help you move your things tomorrow." After dinner, I cleared the plates while they talked about furniture and paint colors. Their voices floated behind me, blending with the hum of the refrigerator. "She likes pale colors," Daniel said. "I know," Emily replied. "But this dark wood has to go. Maybe white walls, beige curtains." My husband built those walls. His hands, not contractors. The wood still smelled faintly of the varnish he used the summer before he died. When I carried the dishes to the sink, Daniel came up behind me. "Mom, don't be upset," he said quietly. "I'm not," I whispered. "Just, Emily likes things her way. You'll get used to her." I smiled without turning around. "Of course. You love her. That's enough reason for me to adjust." He touched my shoulder gently. "You're the best." "I used to be," I murmured. That night, after they went upstairs, I sat in my room for the last time. The wallpaper was faded, the curtains thin, but it was my room. My space. I looked at the framed photo of my wedding day and whispered, "We built this, didn't we, John? Every brick. Every nail." The floor creaked above me as Emily walked around. I opened the wardrobe and took out my folded clothes. Each piece smelled of lavender and old memories. I carried the first stack toward the basement door. The stairs were narrow, cold. My knees ached with every step. Halfway down, Daniel called out, "Mom, do you need help?" "No, dear," I answered, forcing cheer. "I can manage." When I reached the basement, the bulb flickered weakly. Cobwebs hung in the corners. A chill wrapped around my arms like a ghostly shawl. I set my clothes on the cot and sat down. The silence pressed heavy on my chest. I whispered to no one. She said I don't need a room. The air didn't answer. Only the drip of a leaking pipe. I laughed quietly, the sound breaking midway. Then softer, almost to myself, "Maybe she's right. Maybe I don't." But deep inside something shifted. A small, sharp crack. The sound of a heart starting to harden. The basement smelled of damp wood and forgotten years. I opened a small window for air, but all I heard was the echo of footsteps above me. Their footsteps. The next morning Daniel called down the stairs. "Mom, are you awake?" "I never really sleep," I said half joking. Emily's voice followed. "Could you please keep the basement door closed? The smell travels upstairs." I stared at the door, her words sinking in like frost. "Of course," I said quietly. Later that day Daniel brought down a tray of coffee. "Emily didn't mean it," he said quickly. "I know," I replied. "She's right. Old places smell old." He looked around. "You sure you're okay down here? I've lived through worse." He sighed. "We just need time to adjust." I smiled. "You mean she needs time to adjust?" He didn't answer. I tried to make the space mine. I hung a thin curtain, laid an old rug and put my journal on a small table. Every sound from above, a laugh, a slammed drawer, felt like thunder through the ceiling. One afternoon, Emily came down holding a basket of laundry. "The machine's up here, right?" she asked. "Yes," I said, "but it leaks sometimes." She frowned. "You should have told me. Water stains can ruin the floor." I looked at her perfectly painted nails. "You'll survive a few drops, dear." She blinked, surprised. "I didn't mean." "I know," I said. "You just want things perfect." Her lips tightened. "Exactly. It's how I was raised." "Perfection's expensive," I murmured. "Peace costs less." She left without replying. The ceiling groaned as she walked away. That night Daniel came home late. I heard them arguing upstairs, her voice sharp, his tired. "Your mother should be more grateful," she said. "She's trying, Emily." "Trying isn't enough. She could at least stay quiet when I'm working." I closed my eyes and held my breath, as if silence could make me disappear. The next morning she came down again holding her laptop. "Could you keep the TV volume low during the day?" "I don't own a TV." "Oh. Then, the humming? Maybe from your heater." "It's probably the sound of my breathing," I said softly. She stared at me. For a second I thought she might apologize. Instead she said, "Just be mindful, please." When she left I laughed quietly. The kind of laugh that sounds like crying from far away. That evening Daniel came down holding a plate. "Emily made dinner. Chicken pasta. Tell her thank you." He hesitated. "She's stressed. Work's been hard." I nodded. "You don't have to explain her to me, Daniel. I was a wife once too." He sat down beside me. "Dad would have handled this better." I looked at him. "Your father would have told you to grow a spine." He chuckled weakly. "Yeah, maybe." We sat in silence for a moment. The old light bulb flickered above us. "Mom," he said finally, "do you ever feel angry?" "Every day," I said. "But anger is heavy. I can't carry it up the stairs." He stood looking ashamed. "I'll fix this, I promise." "You don't have to," I said. "Life fixes everything on its own." After he left, I opened my journal. My handwriting looked older than I remembered. I wrote, "Day 12. Still pretending this is home. Still pretending I don't hear her voice in every corner." Weeks passed. Emily began leaving sticky notes on the fridge. "Please don't touch the dishwasher. Use separate sponges. Basement door must stay closed." I smiled every time I saw one. Not because it was funny, but because it meant she was afraid. Afraid of a woman with nothing left to lose. One night when the house was quiet, I heard Lily crying upstairs. My body moved before I thought. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step creaking like it remembered me. Emily was half asleep, murmuring, "She'll tire out." I lifted Lily gently. Grandma's here." Her tiny fingers wrapped around mine and she sighed, falling back to sleep against my chest. When I looked up, Emily was watching from the doorway. "She cries for you," she said softly. "She knows my heart," I replied. She didn't answer. Just turned and walked away. Back in the basement, I kissed Lily's forehead before laying her down. I whispered, "Someday you'll understand love doesn't need space. It just needs air to breathe." Above me the floorboards groaned again, but this time they sounded almost like they were sighing. Morning sunlight never reached the basement. I learned to guess the hour by the sounds above. Doors closing, dishes clinking, Lily's faint laughter. One day Daniel called down, "Mom, we're having guests tonight. Can you, keep to the basement for a bit?" I set my teacup down. Of course. Wouldn't want to embarrass your wife with my old face. Mom, that's not fair. Neither is hiding me like dust under a rug. He sighed. It's just one night. It's never just one night, Daniel. When the door closed, I heard Emily humming upstairs, arranging plates. Their laughter floated through the ceiling. I whispered, "I used to be the sound of this house." Hours later, after everyone left, I climbed halfway up the stairs. The kitchen smelled of wine and candles. Emily was wiping the counter. "Oh, hi," she said lightly. "We kept some food for you." "I wasn't hungry," I said. "I was just making sure Lily's asleep." "She is. She's fine." "Good." She glanced at me. "Mom, please don't take it personally. You know how social circles can be. It's complicated to explain family setups." "Family setups?" I repeated. "You make me sound like a misplaced chair." She hesitated, then turned away. "You're overthinking." The next morning, the family photos from the hallway were gone. I asked Daniel, "Where are the pictures?" "Emily wanted to redecorate." "I see. My face didn't match the new wallpaper." He rubbed his temples. "Mom, please don't start." "I didn't start, Daniel. You did, when you forgot I existed." He looked like a scolded child again. "You're twisting things." "No," I said, voice low. "I'm finally untwisting them." From that day they stopped calling me for dinner. I heard forks scraping, glasses clinking, laughter without me. I ate in silence, the hum of the fridge my only company. Weeks blurred. The only bright thing was Lily. She'd crawl toward the basement door, knocking with her tiny fists. "Grandma," she'd shout in her baby voice. I'd open the door quickly, whispering, "Careful, sweetheart. Mommy doesn't like you near the stairs." Lily giggled, reaching for my necklace. "Pretty." "Yes, it was your grandpa's gift to me." "Dada." "No, darling. Grandpa. He loved you before you were born." Sometimes, Emily caught us. "Lily, come here," she'd say sharply. "She's fine, Emily," I'd say softly. "She just wanted a story. She has plenty upstairs." Stories sound different when they're told with love. Emily frowned. "You always have something to say, don't you?" "Not always. Only when silence hurts more." One evening I heard Daniel on the phone. "Yeah, Mom's still here." "No, we can't put her in a home yet. It'll look bad." His words punched through me. A home yet. That night I wrote in my journal, "My son keeps me because it looks better than guilt." The next morning, Emily appeared at the basement door with folded laundry. "Could you iron these? I'm behind on work." I looked at the pile. "These are Lily's clothes." "Yes. You're good with baby stuff." "I'm good at raising people, not folding them," I said, half smiling. She ignored that. "Just make sure her dresses are ready by tomorrow." I did it anyway. I couldn't punish Lily for her mother's pride. Later that day, Emily found me humming to Lily. "Why do you sing those old songs?" she asked. "They keep the ghosts quiet." "What ghosts?" "The kind that live in disappointed hearts." She stared at me, eyes narrowing. "You like making me uncomfortable, don't you?" "Not really," I said. "It just happens naturally when truth walks into a room." She turned, muttering, "You're dramatic." "Age teaches you performance," I whispered. Daniel came down that evening. "Mom, Emily thinks you're being distant." "I live under her feet, Daniel. How much closer can I get?" "She wants peace." "Then tell her to stop stepping on it." He rubbed his face, exhausted. "I don't know what to do anymore." "Try remembering who built this house," I said quietly. He didn't reply. He just walked upstairs slower than before. That night Lily cried again. Emily didn't come. I went up, picked her up, and sat by the window. Moonlight touched her cheeks. "You know," I whispered, "I used to think love could fill any silence. But sometimes silence wins." Lily touched my lips, eyes heavy with sleep. "Shugama," she mumbled. "Yes," I said softly. "Maybe it's time I learned to be quiet too." I stayed up for hours watching the moonlight fade, realizing I had become the shadow in my own home, present, unseen, and still loving everyone who had forgotten I was there. The smell of roasted chicken filled the house. I had been in the kitchen since morning, chopping, stirring, arranging plates. Emily's voice guiding me like a commander. "Make sure the napkins match the flowers," she said, walking past me in her silk dress. "This dinner has to be perfect. Daniel deserves that." I smiled faintly. He always loved my roast chicken. "I'm sure he'll—" "Oh, I'm not serving that," she cut in. "I ordered catering. Yours can stay in the fridge. It's traditional." Her tone dripped with politeness sharp enough to cut skin. I nodded, pretending not to notice. When the guests began to arrive, I wiped my hands on my apron. I could hear laughter echoing from the dining room, glasses clinking, heels tapping. I stood at the kitchen door ready to bring the cake out. Emily's eyes caught mine. "Oh, Mrs. Thompson, you can rest now. We'll handle everything." I hesitated. "I thought maybe I could join you all. It's Daniel's birthday." Her smile tightened. "Of course, but we're already full at the table. Maybe after dinner you can come up for cake." The room went silent for a heartbeat. Someone coughed. Daniel looked at me, then at his plate. He didn't say a word. I forced a smile. "That's all right. I'll just stay here. You all enjoy." "Perfect," Emily said sweetly and turned back to the guests. "She's such a sweetheart. Always helping around the house." Their laughter returned, louder this time. I stayed in the kitchen listening to the sound of my son's voice mixing with strangers. My name never left his lips. Hours passed. When the laughter dimmed, I peeked into the dining room. Empty plates, half-drunk wine glasses, crumbs of cake on silver forks. Emily was gathering gifts in a pile. Daniel was scrolling on his phone. I cleared my throat. "I saved something for you." Daniel looked up. "Mom, it's late." "You didn't have to." "It's just a small cake," I said softly, setting it on the counter. "You used to love chocolate when you were little. Remember? You'd sneak bites before it cooled." Emily stepped closer, arms crossed. "That's sweet, but we already had dessert. Maybe tomorrow, okay?" The room grew smaller, air heavier. "It's just one slice," I whispered. Daniel sighed. "Mom, please. We're tired." Something inside me cracked. Quietly, but it echoed through every memory I had built in this house. "I see," I said. "You're tired. You've had a long day celebrating, without me." Emily's smile didn't waver. "Don't take it personally. You know how parties are, too crowded, too loud." My voice trembled. "In my own home?" The guests glanced between us, uncomfortable. No one spoke. Emily placed a hand on Daniel's arm. "Honey, why don't you walk your mom downstairs? She looks upset." That word, downstairs, burned through me. My basement. My new room. Daniel stood, his face pale. "Mom, please don't make this." "Make what?" I interrupted. "An embarrassment? You already did that." Silence spread like smoke. Emily's eyes hardened. "This is exactly why I didn't want tension tonight. You always find a way to turn peace into drama." "I cooked, cleaned, stayed out of your way," I said, my hands shaking. "I gave you my home, my son, my space. What else do you want from me?" She tilted her head. "Respect goes both ways. Maybe learn to adapt." I laughed, but it came out broken. Adapt. Right. To being invisible. Daniel rubbed his forehead. "Mom, please just go rest. We'll talk tomorrow." "Tomorrow. Always tomorrow. Never now." I looked at him, my little boy who once cried when I left him at school. Now he couldn't even meet my eyes. "I hope you had a good birthday," I whispered. "You'll remember it." "I will too." Emily turned away, murmuring something about dishes. Daniel muttered, "Good night, Mom," and walked upstairs. I stood there, the cake untouched between us, candles still unlit. When the house fell silent, I carried it downstairs, slice by slice, plate by plate. Each step felt heavier than the last. In the basement, I placed the cake on the small table beside my bed. I lit one candle. The flame flickered, weak but alive. "Happy birthday, Daniel," I whispered. "And happy ending to the mother you once had." The wax melted slowly, dripping like tears I refused to shed. The basement has its own rhythm. Pipes hum above me. The air smells like old paint and memories. I can tell what time it is by the sound of their footsteps upstairs. Emily's quick, sharp heels, Daniel's slower, heavier steps. I used to pray for silence. Now I listen. That night I heard voices. Not angry, just low and careful. Emily said, We can't keep this up forever, Daniel. The bills are piling up. He sighed. I told you I'm trying. I just need a few more months. Or, she said softly, we sell the house. My heart dropped. Sell the house. Daniel hesitated. Mom's still here. Emily laughed, that polished little sound. Exactly. She shouldn't be. You said she wanted to travel, didn't you? Maybe she could move to a smaller place. I sat there holding my breath. The pipes above me ticked like a heartbeat. Daniel's voice was tired. Emily, please. She's old. She's been through enough. Old doesn't mean helpless, she said sharply. And this isn't about cruelty, it's about survival. I wanted to shout, to remind her whose house this was, whose hands scrubbed these floors, whose husband built those walls. But I stayed quiet. Because I knew how that would sound coming from the basement. The next morning, Emily knocked on the door. Mrs. Thompson? You awake? Yes, I said, setting down my knitting. Come in. She peeked in, smiling too wide. I just wanted to check if you needed anything. No, dear. I have everything I need. Good, she said. Because Daniel and I will be busy this week. Maybe showing the place to a few people. Just casual. My chest tightened. Showing the place? Just looking, she said. You know how adults plan for the future. I smiled faintly. I used to think the future meant family. Her expression flickered. You're sentimental. It's sweet, but things change. After she left, I sat at the little table by my bed and pulled out an old notebook. My husband used to call it, the keeper of thoughts. I hadn't opened it in years. The pages were yellowed but still smelled faintly of ink and lavender. I wrote, they want to sell the house. Maybe they've already sold their love. That night I heard her again on the phone this time. Her voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. I miss you too. I know he's clueless. I'll handle it soon. The silence that followed was louder than thunder. I whispered to myself, who is she talking to? My own voice startled me. I hadn't heard it in days. The next morning, Daniel brought coffee downstairs. Morning, Mom. I smiled. Morning, sweetheart. He hesitated near the stairs. Emily said you've been distant. I almost laughed. Distant? I live below ground. He rubbed his neck. You know she's trying. She wants things to work. Does she? I asked softly. Or does she just want space to make her next move? He frowned. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, I said. Just thinking out loud. He sighed. You're reading too much into things again. I looked at him, really looked. The boy I raised was buried under stress, worry, and someone else's words. Daniel, I said, promise me something. What? When you look back on this time, make sure you recognize who you were. Don't let anyone rewrite it for you. He looked confused, maybe even guilty. You're scaring me, Mom. I'm scaring myself, I whispered. After he left, I sat in the dark a long while. I could hear Emily moving upstairs, humming. The same melody she hummed on Daniel's birthday, when she told me to stay out of sight. That tune had haunted me for days. Now it made sense. It wasn't joy. It was victory. Later, when she went out, I climbed the stairs quietly, stopping near the kitchen. Her phone was on the counter, screen glowing. A message flashed across it. Miss you already. Same time tomorrow. I stepped back, my heart pounding so loud I thought it might shake the floorboards. When she came home, I was back in my basement, pretending to sleep. Mrs. Thompson, she called sweetly. Everything okay down there? Yes, I said. Everything's fine. But it wasn't. For the first time, I wasn't just hurt, I was awake. I wrote one more line in my notebook before turning out the light. They think I'm buried. They don't realize I'm listening. I started watching her more carefully after that night. Not spying, just observing. Listening. Her perfume changed first. It used to be floral soft. Now it was heavy and sweet, the kind that clings to fabric and lingers in hallways. Every afternoon she'd say, I'm heading out for groceries, but she always came back empty-handed, humming that same tune. Daniel didn't notice. He never did. One morning while she was upstairs getting ready, I heard her on the phone again. She whispered, I can't talk long, he's home. Then laughter, low, secret, tender. My stomach twisted. When she left, I crept up from the basement. Her phone sat on the kitchen counter, screen glowing. I shouldn't have looked. But I did. A message blinked at me. Can't stop thinking about last night. When can I see you again? I stared until my eyes blurred. Then I saw the name, Mark. No last name. Just Mark. Before I could think, I grabbed Daniel's old digital camera from the drawer and snapped a photo of the screen. My hands were trembling. It wasn't revenge, not yet. It was proof. I put everything back exactly where it was. Then I went downstairs and sat on my bed staring at the photo. My husband's voice echoed in my memory. Truth always finds a way to climb out, even from the darkest place. That night, Emily came home late. I heard her heels click across the floor, her laughter spilling through the vents. She stopped above my room as if sensing I was awake. Then knock knock. Mrs. Thompson? I opened the door halfway. Yes. She smiled, too sweet, too calm. I noticed something strange today. My phone was moved. I kept my voice steady. Oh. Yes, she said, tilting her head. Did you happen to see it? I saw it on the counter, I said. Didn't touch it. Her eyes studied me like glass. Maybe I'm just imagining things. You know how forgetful people get. Something inside me flinched. People. She smiled wider. Oh, don't take it personally. You've got so much on your mind. It's easy to forget what's real and what's not. Gaslight. Pure, polished gaslight. I'd raised a son who never used that tone, and somehow he'd married someone who perfected it. I said quietly, I may be old, but I'm not blind. She laughed softly. Of course not. But maybe you should rest more. It's not healthy to dwell on things. Things like what? Her voice lowered. Like what you think you saw. That smile of hers, it wasn't warmth. It was a warning. She stepped closer, eyes glinting. Daniel worries about you, you know. He says you've been acting strange. Strange. I repeated. Listening at doors. Staying up late. Talking to yourself. I've always talked to myself, I said. At least one of us listens. Her jaw tightened. I'm just saying, if you start confusing memories, it might scare him. Or it might scare you, I said softly. Her eyes narrowed for a fraction of a second before her face reset to calm. You're tired, Mrs. Thompson. I'll bring you some tea. I'm not thirsty. Then maybe sleep, she said. Dreams are kinder than reality. She turned and walked away, her perfume trailing behind her like poison in the air. I sat down, breathing slowly. My pulse hammered, but I didn't cry this time. That night when Daniel came home, I waited. He sat on the couch, scrolling his phone, smiling at some message I couldn't see. Daniel, I said quietly. Do you trust your wife? He looked up, frowning. What kind of question is that? A simple one. Of course I do, he said, defensive. Why? Because, I said, sometimes the people we trust most are the ones rehearsing their lies while we sleep. He sighed. Mom, please. Don't start. I'm not starting, I whispered. I'm remembering. He didn't understand. Not yet. When he went upstairs, I pulled out the camera and looked at the photo again. The message glowed on the small screen, blurry but readable. Can't stop thinking about last night. I whispered into the dark. Neither can I. For the first time in months, I didn't feel powerless. I felt patient. And patience, I realized, was the sharpest form of revenge. The days that followed were heavy with silence. Not peaceful silence, the kind that buzzes under your skin waiting to break. Emily avoided me. Daniel avoided conflict. And I waited. One morning I joined them for breakfast. The air smelled of burnt toast and tension. Emily smiled thinly. You're up early, Mrs. Thompson. I couldn't sleep, I said. Dreams can be loud when truth starts whispering. She froze for half a second. Then that perfect smile returned. You do say the strangest things. Daniel looked between us. Mom, please. Not today. Not what? I asked softly. The truth. See. Emily said, laughing lightly. She does this, turns every comment into a mystery. I looked at Daniel. Do you really think that, son? He shifted uncomfortably. I just want peace, Mom. Peace, I repeated. You can't have peace built on lies. Emily's tone sharpened. What lies? I smiled. The kind that smell sweet until they start to rot. Her fork clattered against her plate. Excuse me. Nothing, I said gently. Just thinking out loud again. Daniel sighed. I'm going to be late for work. He left quickly, kissing her cheek, giving me only a glance that said, please don't make things worse. When the door shut, Emily turned on me. What exactly are you trying to do? Nothing, I said. Just live quietly in my basement. Don't play games with me, she hissed. You think you're clever? Watching, listening. I don't think, I said. I know. Her eyes flared. If you ever. Ever what? I interrupted. Tell your husband the truth? She leaned closer, whispering, you have no proof. I smiled faintly. Proof is funny. It tends to appear when people least expect it. She stared at me a long time before walking off, muttering under her breath. That night, Daniel came home later than usual. I waited by the stairs. Long day. Yeah, he said. Emily's been off lately. Off how? He rubbed his neck. Jumpy. Short-tempered. Keeps checking her phone. I looked down, pretending to think. Maybe guilt does that. He frowned. Guilt. Or fear, I said softly. Sometimes people lie so much they start fearing the silence between their own words. He stared at me. You think she's lying? I think, I said, you already know something's wrong. He didn't answer. The next evening it happened. Emily was setting the table, phone beside her. A message popped up, bright and careless. Can't wait to see you again, beautiful. Daniel saw it. Just a flicker, but enough. What's that? He asked. He snatched the phone. Work text. Work. His voice cracked. Who calls you beautiful at work? Daniel, she said quickly. Please don't do this. Your mother's been saying strange things. She's been. Don't, I said quietly. Don't drag me into your mess. She turned, glaring. You're poisoning him against me. Am I? I asked. You've done fine on your own. Stop. Daniel shouted. Both of you. Emily's eyes watered instantly. She was good at that. She's lying, Daniel. She hates me. She's trying to ruin us. I met his eyes. I don't need to ruin what's already broken. Emily grabbed his hand. Baby, you know me. You know I'd never. He pulled away. Then show me your phone. Her face went white. Excuse me. Show me, he said again. She hesitated too long. Silence screamed between us. Finally, she said, I don't have to prove anything. He nodded slowly. Yeah. You don't. Then he walked out of the room. Emily stood there shaking, tears building, not of guilt but rage. You think you've won? She whispered. I looked at her calmly. No. I think the truth just found its voice. She stepped closer, her mask cracking. You've been digging your own grave, old woman. Don't forget, this is my house now. I smiled, steady and cold. Then you'd better learn how to keep the walls from talking. She flinched. Just a small one. But I saw it. That night I heard Daniel's footsteps upstairs, pacing, restless, silent. Emily didn't hum her tune. The house was finally quiet. I opened my notebook and wrote, lies are like fruit left in the sun. They look fine until you smell the truth beneath the skin. I closed the book, turned off the light and whispered into the dark. Rot never stops halfway. I had been hearing whispers for days. Doors closing too softly. Phone calls ending too quickly. The air in this house was heavier than ever, the kind of silence that screams. That evening, Daniel was pacing the hallway upstairs, his phone in hand, his jaw tight. I stood by the stair rail watching. Who is he, Emily? His voice cut through the walls like thunder. Emily's tone was smooth, practiced. You're imagining things again, Daniel. No, I'm not. His voice cracked. I saw the messages. Last night was perfect. What was perfect, Emily? What? I froze. The walls really were speaking now. Every word felt like a knife twisting in my chest. Not because of her betrayal, but because my son finally saw what I had silently known all along. I stepped closer. Daniel, I whispered, please, calm down. He turned to me, eyes wide and red. Mom, she lied to me. All this time. Emily laughed lightly. Don't be dramatic. They're just messages. You know how lonely I get when you're always working. His face drained of color. So you did meet him. Her smirk faltered. You're twisting my words. Daniel's voice rose. Enough. Just tell me the truth for once in your life. Her mask broke. Fine. Yes, Daniel. I met him. Are you happy now? She turned toward the doorway but too late. Their friends who'd come by earlier for tea were standing frozen in the hall. Karen from next door covered her mouth. Mr. Peters' eyes went wide. The whole world suddenly knew. I wanted to disappear but I couldn't look away. The truth had spilled into the open like broken glass. Daniel stared at her in disbelief. You brought him into our home? She crossed her arms. Don't turn this around on me. You've been absent for months. I needed someone who saw me. And you thought betrayal would fix that? His voice was trembling now. Emily, my mother gave up her room for you. She trusted you. And this is what you bring into our house. Her eyes flicked toward me, cold and sharp. Oh, please don't act like she's a saint. She's been watching me like a guard dog since I moved in. I finally spoke, my voice quiet but steady. Because I saw what you were doing long before Daniel did. I just hoped I was wrong. Emily's face flushed red. You old woman. Enough. Daniel shouted. Don't you dare talk to her that way. The room fell silent except for the ticking clock. I could hear my own heartbeat. Emily turned desperate. You're not innocent either, Daniel. You made me feel invisible. He shook his head slowly. No, Emily. You made yourself invisible when you lied. Tears filled her eyes, but they weren't for love. They were for losing control. Mr. Peters cleared his throat softly. Maybe we should go. Daniel nodded without looking at them. Please. I need space. As the door closed behind them, Emily crumpled onto the chair. I never meant for it to get this far, she whispered. Daniel stood still, his hands trembling. You did. You just didn't mean to get caught. I wanted to reach for him but my legs felt like stone. Mom, he said quietly, turning to me, how long have you known? I swallowed hard. I heard things, saw things. But it wasn't my place to tell you. You wouldn't have believed me. He closed his eyes. No. I wouldn't have. Emily looked up, tears streaking her face. Please, Daniel. I can fix this. I'll end it. He didn't answer. He just stared at her, then walked toward the door. You already ended it. He stepped outside. I followed him onto the porch. The same porch where this story began. He sank onto the steps, his head in his hands. Mom, I feel like my whole life just shattered. I sat beside him, placing my hand over his. Sometimes, son, the walls have to speak before we can hear the truth. He looked at me, really looked at me for the first time in years. You were right about her. I smiled faintly. No, Daniel. The truth was right. It just took time to be heard. Inside the house was quiet. The echo of broken trust still hung in the air, but so did something new, release. And for the first time since I moved to that cold basement, I felt the house breathing again. It's been 6 weeks since that night. The house is quieter now, but it no longer feels heavy. The echoes that once carried anger now carry peace. I was folding laundry when Daniel came down the basement stairs, holding a thick envelope. It's done, he said. I looked up. You filed them. He nodded. Divorce papers. She didn't even fight it. Just signed and left town last week. For a moment I didn't know what to feel, relief, sadness, or both. And how do you feel, son? He let out a tired sigh. Empty. But maybe that's better than being blind. I smiled faintly. Empty can be cleaned. Blind stays dark. He chuckled softly. You always find the right words, Mom. We sat in silence for a while, listening to the hum of the washing machine. He finally said, you know, people talk. Everyone in town knows what happened. Emily's picture-perfect reputation? Gone. She quit her job too. I nodded slowly. Karma doesn't shout, Daniel. It just arrives when the noise fades. He rubbed his temples. I thought I'd hate her forever. But now I just pity her. That's how you know you're healing, I said. When anger turns into understanding, you're walking forward again. He looked around the basement. You've really made this place cozy. I glanced at the small lamp, the rug, the potted plant near the window. I had to. This was the only room left for me. He swallowed hard. Mom, I've been thinking about that. You shouldn't be down here. Where else would I go? Upstairs, he said quietly. Back to your room. The one you built with Dad. My hands froze mid-fold. Daniel. He shook his head, tears forming. I was a coward. I let her disrespect you and I said nothing. Every day since that night I've thought about it. You deserve your home back. I stared at him, my grown son finally seeing me not as a burden but as a person. I don't need to move upstairs, I whispered. Down here I found myself again. I remembered how to be strong. He knelt beside me. But it's your home, Mom. You should feel free everywhere in it. I reached out, touching his cheek gently. Freedom isn't in rooms, Daniel. It's in hearts. And right now yours is learning to breathe again. He smiled weakly. You sound like Dad. Maybe because I finally understand what he meant when he said love isn't about comfort, it's about truth. Daniel stood, glancing toward the narrow window where faint sunlight slipped through. I want to do something. For you. What do you have in mind? He grinned. You'll see. 2 days later he called me upstairs. Close your eyes, he said. When I opened them I gasped. The walls of my old room were freshly painted, soft cream with pale gold trim. My favorite curtains were rehung. The quilt I'd sewn years ago lay neatly on the bed. Daniel, I whispered, trembling. You did this. He nodded. With some help from Karen next door. Said she missed your baking. I laughed through tears. That woman would do anything for a pie. He smiled. You belong here, Mom. Not in the basement. Not hidden away. I stepped into the room, touching the dresser, the window frame, the photos of my husband and I. It felt like stepping into sunlight after years underground. Daniel placed my old journal on the table. You used to write every night. Maybe it's time you start again. I looked at him, then out the window where golden light filled the room. Maybe it is. He hugged me, a long, quiet hug that said everything words couldn't. When he finally pulled back, he whispered, "Thank you for not giving up on me." I smiled. Mothers don't give up. We wait for the walls to speak. That night I sat by the window, pen in hand. The basement below was dark but peaceful, no longer a prison but a memory of endurance. As I wrote, I realized something simple and beautiful. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means remembering without pain. I glanced at the door. The house no longer belonged to Emily's shadow or to my silence. It belonged to truth, to peace, to the people who finally learned to listen. And for the first time in years I felt it, that quiet warmth inside my chest, like the sun finally finding the basement again. It's been 8 months since everything fell apart. Or maybe I should say, since everything finally came together. Emily left quietly one morning, suitcase in hand, eyes hidden behind dark glasses. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't need to. The silence said it for her. Daniel didn't stop her. He just stood by the window watching the car fade into the distance. That night he said softly, "She took her things, but she left her noise behind." I smiled faintly. Noise fades when truth takes its place. He looked at me with tired eyes. "Do you think I'll ever trust again?" "Yes," I said. "When you stop blaming love for what lies did." Since then life has been quieter, simpler. Lily spends most of her days with me now. The house feels alive again, not because of laughter but because of peace. One morning, Lily came running down the stairs, her curls bouncing. "Grandma, can I go play in my room?" "Which one?" I asked with a teasing grin. "The one downstairs," she said proudly. "The basement. The same place I once cried in, prayed in, and promised myself I'd survive in." Now it was covered in soft rugs, shelves full of toys, and sunlight streaming through the window. Daniel had widened. I followed her down, watching her build towers with her blocks. The walls, once gray and cold, now wore pastel colors and children's drawings. Daniel leaned in the doorway. "She loves it down here," he said. I smiled. "So do I. It used to be my cage. Now it's her kingdom." He nodded slowly. "Funny, isn't it? How spaces change when hearts do." I looked around the room that once held my heartbreak. "It's not the walls that change, Daniel. It's the people inside them." He walked over and hugged me tighter than before. "You know, I used to think peace meant fixing everything. But now I think it's about learning to let go." I laughed softly. "You're finally learning my language." Later that evening, after Lily fell asleep, I sat upstairs by the same window where my husband and I once watched sunsets together. The air smelled like jasmine, his favorite. Daniel joined me, handing me a cup of tea. "You seem lighter these days." "I am," I said. "I moved back upstairs last week." His eyes softened. You did. I nodded. Not because I won anything, but because I finally stopped losing myself. He smiled. I think Dad would be proud. Maybe, I said. But I think he'd tell me it took me long enough. We both laughed quietly. There was no anger left in me. No bitterness. Just space, clean, quiet, and free. Daniel looked out the window. You know, Emily called yesterday. I raised an eyebrow. Oh. She said she's sorry. Said she realized what she lost. I sipped my tea. People always realize that when they run out of things to take. He nodded. I didn't say anything back. Just hung up. That was the right choice. Yeah, he said, smiling faintly. For once, silence said enough. As the sun dipped below the trees, the house glowed in warm amber light. I looked around. The room that was once stripped from me now felt like home again. I reached for my journal on the table. The leather was soft, worn from years of secrets and prayers. I opened to a fresh page. Daniel stood to leave. What are you writing tonight? The last line, I said. He nodded. Make it a good one. When he left, the house was quiet again, but this time it was the kind of quiet that feels full, not empty. I watched the stars appear one by one outside the window. The same sky, but somehow brighter tonight. And then I wrote. She said I didn't deserve a room. Now I know, I deserved a home. And peace was my key. I closed the journal and placed it beside me, smiling through the tears I didn't bother to wipe away. Downstairs I heard Lily giggle in her sleep. The sound of innocence and new beginnings. The house finally felt whole again. And so did I.